Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for joining Critical English, Grade 7, and today it's just me, your host, Monique Sarias. Students couldn't make it today, unfortunately, but I'm here and thank you for joining. So today's discussion was meant to be about persuasive writing, so we will continue with discussing the idea anyway, though it will be just me talking to you most of the time because I can't ask the students questions exactly. So I just wanted to share this here, a journal that I got from someone. It says, I love me unconditionally, and it's about self-empowering women basically and motivational and so forth. Because there are times that we need a little motivation and there are times that we don't feel like doing certain things, but we have to get up and do it anyway. So being persuasive is important to function in everyday life because there are times that you may not feel like getting out of bed. There are times you probably don't feel like cooking or those different things. But we convince ourselves to get up. We convince ourselves to cook anyway. And there are times when we're passionate about certain things and we can't help but telling the world about it. For example, there are times when persons are looking at a sport, and I know a lot of you are looking at cricket lately, or you were there in person looking at the matches, and you want to convince your friend that your team is going to win. So you pull up all the history books and you say, this year they won, or that year they won, or they scored so much and whatever. So you're convincing, or you're trying to convince your friend of something by pulling up that data. So one of the ways we can be persuasive is by using evidence. So on the board, I'm going to write the word evidence as one of the important ingredients that we can use when trying to be persuasive. And being persuasive does not only have to do with speaking, sometimes it's writing, and sometimes it's our body language as well, if we are confident about what we're saying. Because we can talk about all the facts and figures, but if our voice don't convey it or our words don't convey it, then persons wouldn't want to listen to us or be influenced by what we have to say. And right now, you're looking at this possibly on YouTube or Facebook, and we know there is such a thing as social media influence. So how well can you influence your followers to do X or to not do X? And persons and their words have a lot of power. So it's what you say and how you say it that can either make or break a deal. So we have evidence already on the board, but what else can we work with? There is something called authority. So for example, somebody may have spelled a word incorrectly, and to prove that they have spelled it incorrectly, we may tell them something. Hi Alicia, thank you. We may want to tell them that this word is spelled incorrectly, but it will be our word against their word. So sometimes what do? We pull out a dictionary and we say, look, the dictionary says the word is spelled this way. Or you can type into Google, into the space there, the search bar, and type the word that you want the spelling for and prove to your friend that you were right, or that, prove that they were wrong. So that's also using a voice of authority, and the authority figure in that case would be the spelling of the word in the dictionary or the spelling of the word on Google. That's your proof. That's your authority there. You can also use authority in the sense of scientific authority. So maybe National Geographic, for example, did a survey and they found that 70% of wildlife fires are caused by humans. And if you quote National Geographic, you're quoting a source of authority there. Or you can even quote a person sometimes, but it has to be somebody who is knowledgeable of that field. So for example, if you're quoting a lawyer, you may not want to quote a lawyer for something that has to do with baking because that's not their field of specialty. However, if you want somebody to comment about baking and how to bake the perfect black cake, for example, you speak to a chef or you speak to a cook. So the voice of authority that you're using has to be relevant to what you're talking about. So as we were talking about these things, Alicia, thanks for coming. We're talking about persuasive writing and how we can persuade people to do things or to change their opinion on something. For example, Does my hair look like I have combed it? Yes? Well, I didn't. I just ran my fingers through it. But if you wanted to convince me that I should comb my hair, what is something you may tell me?
I may tell you that your hair looks rough.
It looks rough or ruggedy and I need to comb it so it looks what?
Messy.
Oh, I'll comb it so it looks messy? Comb it because I want it to look how? What's the opposite of messy? Or why do you comb your hair? Because you want what?
Neat.
You want it to be neat. So you want to convince me that I should comb my hair by saying, if you comb your hair, you'll look neat and you'll look clean, etc., etc. So that is a form of persuasion, and that, do you know what you're appealing to when you use those words to me? Are you appealing to, are you using any scientific data or authority there? Are you saying scientists say you should brush your teeth 3 times a day? No, it's not anything like that. You're not using evidence either. You're just saying I would look neat and I would look clean. And everyone wants to look neat and clean, I suppose, right? So you are using something called emotion. So you're appealing to my emotions. So we're going to say emotional appeal here. So for example, if you want to convince someone to buy a makeup product that you're selling, what can you possibly tell them? That if they use this makeup product, what next?
It would help to lighten up theirs.
All right, think of this. Have you seen advertisements on TV and so forth? Usually when they're trying to sell a product like a face product, for example, or a shampoo, for example, who or what do they use? Models. And these are women usually with perfect hair, perfect skin. Everything is perfect about them, perfect shape, everything, or what people perceive to believe is perfect. Because everyone has different shape, but then people think of a certain body type and say that's the ideal body type, or everyone should look like that. So whether or not everyone looks like that, they're looking at this particular person as the model. So that's a form of persuasion too. You're saying if you want to look like this person, you should use Neutrogena body wash, or you should use Olay, or you should use, what are some other brands you know? What brand of shampoo, for example, do you use? Suave, good. So if you want to convince somebody to use a shampoo that you use, you can say, look at my hair, it's nice and it's what? Adjectives, exactly. So you can also use adjectives, and the adjectives that you use can have an emotional appeal on persons, right? Good. So we have authority, we have evidence, and there's another one I want to talk about as well. Okay. So I'm going to say scientific evidence here. And it's similar to the one that we had above here, voice of authority, but with the evidence. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to write evidence. I meant to write example, sorry. We already have evidence. I'm sorry. So think of something that you may want to convince somebody to do X or to do Y, and you're giving them examples now. For example, you are selling mangoes in the market, but everyone else is selling mangoes. How are you going to make people buy the mangoes that you're selling and not go to the other vendor or the other salesperson?
They can say it has a certain type of taste and it's very juicy.
Taste, good. So you're describing it. So that goes back to emotional appeal with taste there. For example, if you have tons of different mangoes, you can say they only have one type of mangoes that they're selling, but if you buy from me, you can choose from 10 different types of mangoes. And so you have your examples. Your examples are the different types of mangoes that you have there. Or let's say you want them to use a certain brand of clothing, for example. What's a brand of clothing that you know?
I can't remember.
You can't remember. You know Old Navy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a brand that's very popular. A lot of persons use it. So Old Navy. Let's say you want to convince somebody to buy, or let's say you want to convince your mom to buy something for you that's Old Navy. Or if it's a phone, let's say it's an iPhone, how are you going to convince her to buy an iPhone for you? If mommy, if you buy an iPhone for me, what? Continue from there.
It has a lot because it has a lot of storage. You can,
A lot of storage.
and its camera qualities are good.
Camera, good camera quality.
And it
Functions properly. And because you're also going to school, you don't want mommy to think that she's just buying this phone for you to take out pictures. So you're going to say, mommy, I will use this phone to do schoolwork or to do homework or whatever, right? So you're giving mommy examples of how you're going to use this. So you're persuading her through the use of examples. See how that connects there? So we have several things on the board. We have evidence, we have authority, emotional appeal, examples. Can you think of anything else we can use to convince someone to do something or to change their mind about something? For example, this bottle of water that you have in front of you, Blue Spring Water, is this the only brand of water available on the market? Can you name some others? Clear waters. There's a green and white one that's sold by Demico. Tropical. Remember that one? There's also Rainforest something. I think Rainforest is the green one. Tropical Mist is also a Demico product. And there's a water called Smart Water. Do you know about that one? I wonder if you drink it, if it makes you smart. So there are different brands of things available to us, right? So if you look at the bottle in front of you carefully, it has a flag of Guyana. So if I want to convince somebody that they should buy this bottle, I would say it has a flag of Guyana there, so you should buy it because it's Guyanese made. What else does it have? I can list the ingredients on the bottle and say if you buy this bottle of water, these are the things that you're getting from it. There's nutrition facts there, whatever. But on the other hand, I could also want to convince someone not to use plastic bottles. What can I say if I want to dissuade them from using something? So persuasion doesn't always have to do for them to do something. It could be against something. So if I want to convince somebody or my friend or so not to use plastic bottles, what can I say? Plastic is not good for the environment because a lot of people, when they in the oceans, the plastic ends up there and it causes damage to wildlife and pollution and littering and so forth, right? So we can use persuasion like that. So the example that I'm giving there is it can be you can persuade someone to do something or a group of persons to do something, or you can use persuasive writing or persuasive speech to convince them to not do something. So there are times your friends at school may want to convince you to do something good, and there are times that they may want you to do something bad. Can you think of a situation that you may be in that your friends may want to convince you to do something that you know you really shouldn't be doing? Can you think of anything?
You didn't complete the work in the morning and your friends convinces you to, your teacher asks for everyone who did the work, and your friend convinces you to tell her yes.
Oh, so you're lying then. Good. So sometimes persons can convince you to lie because you want to fit in with everyone else. You're thinking, if I don't lie, they're not going to like me as a friend anymore. Good. So sometimes we can be the ones who are convincing others to do things, and sometimes we are on the receiving end. They're trying to convince us to do something. So once we understand persuasive language and persuasive speech and persuasive writing, then we basically know, and we can read people and we can make good decisions from there. And there are times you are going to make decisions that aren't so good that you may regret later on. But the thing is, it's a learning process. You don't always get everything right. But if you can read through the lines and see where it's heading and figure out how that's going to work out for you eventually, you can possibly make a right decision. So the other one here I'm going to put here is contrast. I know we kind of shifted from what I was going to talk in the first place. So usually comparison and contrast is used, but I'm not going to write both out. I'm going to explain both though. So when we were talking about the different brands of water, bottled water, we can compare brands and we can say these two brands are great to use because they're both made in Guyana. Or if we want to contrast, are we talking about similarity still? If I compare, I'm talking about similarities. They're both made in Guyana. If I'm contrasting them now, am I still talking about similarity? Compare is similarity. So I'm going to write both on the board. I know I said I wasn't going to write both, but I eventually decided to. So compare, similarity, and contrast. Think of it. If one is about similarity, the other will be? Not similar. So what's the word for that? Difference. Good. So the differences. So one is about similarity and one is about differences. So what I'm going to do, I want you to just observe what I have written on the board. You don't have to write now because it will take a lot of time for you to write, but I will send an image of what's on the board to you later. So just for review purposes, for persuasive writing, there are different things that you can use to be persuasive in speech or writing. We have emotional appeal, authority, use of examples, comparison and contrast, and we have use of evidence. So those are all things that you can use to be persuasive. What I'm going to do now on the board is show you how we can use some of these elements to make possibly good decisions, but we're going to use it as a jumping ground for future writing. So we're not really going to write today, but we're going to plan what we're going to be writing. Sorry that I'm backing you so much, but I really needed to write and handle the board today. So the method that I'm going to go through with you, Alicia, is called the sodas method. Do you know what the word? So we're not actually talking about a drink here. So S stands for something, O stands for something, D stands for something, A, and we have another S at the end here. So sodas. Okay, I made a mistake. The S comes here. All right, so we have sodas written on the board as an acronym. So we're not talking about the drink soda here. Can you make a guess as to what any of these mean? You may be right, you may be wrong, but I'm still going to give you a chance to try to figure out what they mean.
Stand for similarity.
Similarity? No. All right, I'm going to try to give you a hint. So, has a few more letters there, but that's the first three letters.
D stands for dislike.
Dislike? All right, I'm going to help you a bit there because we're a bit tight with time. So the first one is the situation. The second one is options. The third is disadvantages. The fourth, advantages. And the last one is the solution. So this is like a thinking map. So let's come up with a situation that you would like to talk about. Just now we mentioned hair, we mentioned water, we mentioned pollution. And earlier I was talking about social media and so forth. So come up with a situation and we'll work with you.
They have there's this day in class that there's a test, and
there's a test in class, So what's going on? What's the problem here?
and the head teacher wants to hold a party.
The head teacher wants to hold a party.
But the teachers are trying to convince her that the test is in the afternoon and that the children should have a party after the test.
Okay, so we have the problem of a party and an examination planned for the same day. Okay, so we're gonna put that here, party and exam. Same day. What are the options? As a student, think of it from a student perspective. What are your options? It's already planned by the school. So think of it yourself here. What are possibly two options that you have? Well, we know you're not comfortable with it, right? So because you're not comfortable with it, what do you do next? As a student, as a child going to school.
I would try to write a letter.
You write a letter first? Okay, so you can write a letter. Who do you write the letter to?
The head teacher.
So letter to HM, okay. What's another option that you have as a child and as a student? Who would you usually bring your concerns to if you don't like something at school?
My teacher.
So you talk to teacher, What's the other option?
You can.
And I want you to think a little bit about who you're closest to, apart from your teacher. Who else can you talk to?
My friends.
Your friends, all right. Talk to friends. All right, let's work with this from here. So these are your three options. So let's look at the first one, disadvantages. If you just write a letter to the HM here, what are the disadvantages of doing that?
The disadvantages is that you're gonna actually be able to get the party in the morning anyway.
Okay, so remember, if you go and you write the letter to the HM, you didn't talk to your teacher about it and you didn't talk to your friends about it. So the HM may want to know if you spoke to the teacher. So you may get into trouble for going directly to the HM than going to your class teacher first, right? So let's just put get into trouble. All right, let's look at the second one. If you talk to your teacher now, what's a disadvantage there? A possible disadvantage. Do you think the teacher will side with you? Sort of. Do you think your teacher can make changes like that though?
Yeah.
Okay, so the decision was made by the school to have the party and the exam on the same day. Do you think your teacher can change it? So even though you talk to her, will she be able to change it, or will he be able to change it on his own or her own? Remember, we're looking at the disadvantage here. So we're going to come to the advantages just now, but let's look at the disadvantage here. So you may talk to her, but would it always make a difference? So you may still end up with the same problem, right? So teacher may not be able to change the situation, right? So your situation remains the same, your problem remains the same. What about if you talk to your friends about it? So your friends may not be happy about it, you're not happy about it. Will anybody be happy?
They may not agree with you.
Friends may not agree with you. Excellent. Now let's think of advantages now. If you write a letter to your head teacher, what could be an advantage to the situation? Or a good thing coming out of that letter?
You'll be able to hold the party in the afternoon.
Okay, so the problem can be solved.
Yes.
Because remember, she is the leader of the school or the boss of the school, right? Or he or she. So the problem can be solved. What would be an advantage of talking to your teacher?
You can talk to her other colleagues, and they can bring the problem also to the head teacher.
Good. So your class teacher can talk to the HM or intercede on your behalf or talk to his or her colleagues, other teachers, and they can talk to the teacher for you. So instead of the head teacher. So you're not going directly to the head teacher, but you're still getting her to look into the matter by going through your teachers. Good. What about an advantage of talking to your friends? Your friends may not be able to change anything because obviously all of your students, but when you share your problem with someone, how does it make you feel after?
They're able to come into an agreement with you and probably.
Well, remember, they will also be the same situation like you, so you can't come into an agreement with them, but how does it make you feel afterwards?
Oh, they can probably like, when you tell them,
Yeah.
they can probably agree with you and then talk to the head teacher. And that can help your head teacher realize.
All right, take a step back. Take a step back. So you're talking to your friend about how you feel about this, and you're angry and you're mad and so forth. After you speak to them, how are you feeling now? Are you still mad? Are you still angry? Are you still upset?
It depends on your reaction.
Good. So what do you think? And think this is a positive one here, right? So let's think positively here. If you speak to your friends, how may you feel afterwards? And it has to be something good.
I will feel relieved.
Relieved. Excellent word. So you feel relieved by just talking to your friends, right? Good. So let's look at the solution now. So you got these three options. We know what our disadvantages are. We know what our advantages are. Which one will you choose to go to? So option one is letter to the head teacher. The second option is talk to your teacher, or the third one is talk to your friends.
Teacher.
The first one? Oh, the second one. So your answer is talk to teacher. Good. So we have this nice plan that we have here, and we wouldn't be able to write about this today, but we have to plan your speech to your teacher and what you will say to convince her that this shouldn't happen, the party and the exam shouldn't happen on the same day. So we don't really have a lot of time to work with, but give me one point that you will tell your teacher if you had to convince her that having the party and the exam on the same day isn't a good idea. What can you possibly tell her? Go again, I didn't hear you, sorry.
I mean, mention advantages of having a party in the morning. Not in the afternoon.
Good, so the advantages. So remember we were talking about persuasive writing earlier, and we talked about you can give examples, you can give emotional appeal, scientific data, or we said authority figures. Any of those you want to use?
Yeah.
Which one? There's also comparison and contrast as well.
We had one where it was trying to
Convince somebody to do something. They're all convincing somebody to do something. There's one called emotional appeal where you try to say, you show her how upset you are and blah, 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 blah. And you try to make her change her mind based on, everybody will be happy if they can have just a party on one day and not think about exams. So that one. So emotional appeal then. So you plan on using emotional appeal when you talk to teacher, right? Good. So this is what we are going to work on in the next session that we have. I'm also going to take a picture of this and send to you so you don't have to write the notes down physically. And so I know my handwriting is atrocious, but I suppose you can also understand what's here. So I encourage those of you who are looking at this live from home, if you can just take a minute, take a step back on figuring out how you can convince your teacher of this exact situation here, or it could be a different problem. Come up with your own problem, come up with the options that you have. What are the disadvantages to those options? What are the advantages? And what will be your solution? So next week, when we're continuing with our plan, you will also have an opportunity to write your plan and possibly put it into action. So thank you for joining us, and thank you, Alicia. Thank you for coming. I was happy to have to speak to myself. So have a great week, everyone, and see you next week.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our session of Critical Math, grade 6 to 7. And today we are looking at subtraction of integers. But for the benefit of our student today, who was absent on Tuesday, and seeing that we only have one of our students present with us today, we will recap addition of integers. Then we will look at subtraction of integers, and I think we have a game in store for us today for understanding of the concept. All right, so let's begin. All right, so the last time we were looking at addition, right? Addition of integers. All right, the concept is sometimes known as directed. Directed numbers as well. All right, so the integers are positive as well as negative numbers. All right, great. So we start out with 5 plus 3. All right, so to assist us, we'll have some tiles here. And the red tiles, we will consider them as negative, right? And the blue tiles, we'll consider them as positive. So we have some positive vibes, some negative vibes going on. All right? So we need to represent 5 plus 3. Notice the 5 is positive, and the 3 is also positive. So I'll take 5 of my blue tiles, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put the blue tiles away a bit. The red tiles, sorry. And then we have 1, 2, 3 tiles. So when we add them up together, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tiles. Right? And notice, remember we said the blue represents positive. So our answer is positive 8. All right, so the last time we also mentioned that if you do not see the sign on the number, it's considered positive. So we can also have here positive 5. This is another way of saying it. Added to positive 3 is equal to positive 8. All right, so these two things are the same. You follow?
Yes.
So notice I have some positives. I'm adding it to another set of positive. So my answer will always be positive. Great. So let's check out it. Suppose I have negative 5 added to negative 3. So using our tiles, so we need to put away our blue tiles because the blue tiles represent positive. So we pick up our red tiles. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3 tiles, right? So we have negative 5 added to negative 3 will give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What kind of 8?
Negative.
Negative 8, right? So in other words, a negative added to another negative will give us
A negative.
good. So if we have some negative vibes and you got some more negative vibes coming up, there's a bunch of negative vibes you're giving off, right? Great. Now another way of looking at this is like this. I can have minus 5, minus 3. All right? The concept is the same. Because here I'll have a positive sign that is missing, or we can look at it like this. All right? I have positive 5, sorry, negative 5. There's a plus sign that is missing between there, all right? And so you still have negative 3 remaining there, all right? So there's a plus sign that is hidden between there, all right? So you can either see it with the positive sign in play or without the minus sign, without the positive sign. So this will still be minus 8. So the concept here, so these two are the same. Right? So negative added to another negative will give us
A negative.
negative. All right. Now in other cases, you have different signs. So the two previous examples that we looked at, the signs were the same. Either they were all positive or they were both negative. Now sometimes you have different signs. Right? And with different signs you want to add. So let's check. So if I have -5 plus, okay, let me start out with what we already know. I have +5 and I want to take 3. What is my answer going to be? We know what the answer is going to be.
+2.
Exactly, right? So if I put my red tiles aside, pick up my blue tiles, so I have 1, 2, 4, and 5. So out of that 5 I'm taking away 3. So I have +2 remaining. That's one way of looking at it, right? The other case is I can have here 5 plus -3, right?
Yeah.
So you follow what's happening there?
Yes, miss.
Great. So I can have 2 still remaining. So there's a particular rule here. So let's go here. Let me draw a line here, and you'll see the rule just now. If I have -5 and I'm adding a +3 there, switch over, put away my blue tiles, put my red tiles, 3 and 2, 5. So what is happening? I want to add 3. So how do I add 3? And notice the 3 is positive, right? So I'll take up 3 of my positive tiles, because this is my +3. Put that here. Now what is going to happen is that, remember, we have a negative and a positive. So these two are going to give you 0. So when you pair them up, that's 1, 0, 2, 0, 3 zeros. So what is remaining?
-2.
-2. All right, -2. So what's the difference? So in the first case, we had 5, so we can do 5 like this as well, +5. So let's revisit the first one, right? 5 plus -3. So I can have +5, 3, 4, 5, and I'm adding -3. So these represent my -3. So these two will give me 0, these two will give me 0, these two will give me 0. So what remains? +2, hence here, hence the value here, right? So the particular rule that governs here is that when you're adding 2 different signs, it's similar to subtracting, right? But the answer will take the sign of the number which appears greater. Let's use that word, appears, right? So in the case of, in this particular case, 5 take away 3 will give us 2, right? Good. Which number appears greater?
5.
What is the sign for the 5? Positive. So you see we have a +2, right? In the second case, we have 2 different signs because we have a -5 and we're adding that to a +3. So we subtract again. So we know 5 take away 3 will give us 2, right? Now, which number appears greater?
-5.
Well, 5, right? You can say 5, but great. So what is the sign for the 5? Negative. So our answer in this case, you see it's negative?
Yes.
All right. So when you have 2 different signs and you're adding, right, you subtract, and the answer will take the sign of the number which appears greater. So it doesn't matter which number appears greater, whatever sign that number has, the answer will take that sign, all right? So let's look at this again. So if I have 7 plus -5, what is my answer? So it's similar to subtracting, right? 7 take away 5 will give me
2.
2. Which number appears greater?
7.
What is the sign?
Positive.
Positive, so I'll have a positive 2. So I can either represent positive 2 like this, or I can have it without the plus in front, right? Good. So what about if I have negative 7 plus 5? Same concept.
Yeah.
2 different signs. We subtract. So I will get same 2, right?
Yes.
Which number appears greater?
7.
What is the sign?
Negative.
So my answer here would be a negative 2. So that's in essence how you add. So bring us back to the beginning. So if I have a set of positive, all right, if I have positive 3 and I'm adding positive 2, my answer is going to be positive. That's no issue. If I have negative 3 and I'm adding negative 2 to that set, right, my answer will always be negative. Great. Therefore, in the third scenario, if we have 2 different signs and I'm adding, it's similar to subtracting, and the answer take the sign of the number which
Is greater.
appears. We use the word appears, right? Because later on you'll learn about absolute value and all of that. All right? Good. So today, what I want us to do is to look at subtraction, right? So that's our concept today. Subtraction of integers. All right? And we will look at subtraction like this. In this way. We can look at it like this. 5 minus 2. All right, hold up. Let me just do this. 5 minus 2. All right, so it means I have positive 5. Right? And I can take 2, right?
Yes.
So if I take away 2, I have
Positive 3.
I have positive 3 remaining. That's one scenario. Follow?
Yes.
Now if I have negative 5 and I want to take away negative 2, let's check it out. So put away my blue tiles. So I need to have my red tiles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can I take away negative 2 from that? Do I have sufficient to take away negative 2?
Yes, miss.
So I can take away 1, 2. How much remains?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. How is that possible? Negative 3. How is that possible, right? So let's put an asterisk here. We come back to that. We come back to that just now. So let's examine. I say I have 7 and I want to take negative 2 from that. All right? So back to the positive and negative values here, right? So we're looking at positive 7. So blue tiles, 2, 4, 6, 1 is 7. Well, how can I take negative 2 away from here? Do I have any negative? With 7 here?
No.
I don't have negatives there. So what I can do, I can bring 2 negative in, right? Now, if I'm bringing 2 negative in, it means I'm also bringing in 2 positive, right? So I have to bring in 2 positive because these 2. So so I know I have 7, right? But I want to take away minus 2. I do not have that negative 2, but I can bring them in. So I can decide not to take away those 2. So it means I must still have my positive 7. You follow?
Yes, miss.
All right, good. So I can bring a minus 2 in. So if I'm bringing minus 2 in, it means I have to bring in 2 positive as well. All right? Good. Now what will happen with these 2?
You take away the negative and
Now, because I brought this in, I can take them away.
yes.
So what remains?
Positive. positive
9? She's seeing positive 9. Positive 9. So how is that possible? You're correct. It's positive 9. It's right there on the tiles, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have. So what's happening is that this. So in the second scenario here, let's start from here. So this is similar to 7 plus 2 equals 9. All right, so this was saying you were going in an opposite direction and then you changed the direction. Hence, when we brought in the minus 2 to take away, remember we had to bring in positive 2 as well. All right, so when we take away the minus 2, all we have were positive. So it means the sign of this minus 2 that we had changed. All right, so the minus sign here, with that minus sign changed to a plus, and it became addition. So
the amount of the number that you're taking away from the positive number will be the amount of the positive number you add to it?
yes.
Oh.
Yes. All right, so let's look at another case, all right? So we'll come back up to that one, this one here. They call this number 1, right? Great. So we'll come back to that in a bit. So let's say I have 5, and I want to take away minus 1. You know what is going to be, right? What is going to be? Take your time.
Positive 6.
Positive 6. Exactly. So let's go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5. I don't have a minus 1. I can bring 1 in. But if I'm bringing in 1, I have to bring in a positive as well. Right? Because these two is going to give me 0 if I decide not to. Right? So now I can take away the minus 1. So I have an extra 1. All right? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can see that here. So what really happens is that when you have the two minus sign running one after the other like that, you add. All right? So this becomes 5 plus 1, which is equal to 6. All right, so let's back up a bit to the question that we were talking about. Minus 5 minus minus 2, all right? Minus 5 minus minus 2. So what you think will be happening here with those two? Because we already have our answer to this particular question here, right? The answer was, hold on a bit. The answer was minus 3?
Yes.
All right, so let's check. So what happened there? So we'll have minus 5 plus 2, and that brings us back to different signs, right?
Yes.
Which is, so I have 1, 2, minus, that's minus, so that's my red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm adding these two positive. So I have 0, 0, and so I have
Negative.
minus 3 remaining, right? Minus 3 remaining. You think you get it?
Yes, miss.
So the tiles make it easier?
Yes.
Great. So let's see if we can pop a game in a couple of minutes. Let's use our flashcards, right? So let's check out this particular game. All right, so what's the answer? Minus 3 minus 6.
Positive 3.
Now we have a minus 3 and a minus 6. So we're supposed to be what? So we're adding two negatives there. So our answer will be
Positive 5.
look at the signs. You seeing the signs clearly? Or use the tiles. Use the tiles. That's why we have tiles. Use the tiles. So take your minus 3 because the red is negative, right? Let's go ahead. Minus 3. And we're adding to that minus 6. Take some of these out of the way. Minus, this is positive you're taking. So take the blue out of the way. So set up your negative 6.
And then we take.
All of them need to be red.
Oh.
Kong naman.
9.
What kind of 9?
Negative 9.
So let's check. See? It's negative 9. Great. Next.
I get confused because like the subtraction sign is in the middle.
Right. Okay. Okay, when we finished. All right, what about this one? 10 minus minus 4.
Positive 6.
Check it back. How are you getting 6? So when we have the 2 minus coming like that, we should be
Subtract.
adding. We should be adding. So that will be 10 plus,
4.
which is
14.
14. Let's check. See? 14. All right, let's check another one here. Yeah. No, this is similar to the first one.
That'll be
Take it.
20. Negative 21.
Yes. Great. Wonderful. Negative 21. You got that. All right. Here we go again. Mm-hmm. 8 minus minus 9. So we should be, what you should be doing?
Subtract.
Minus minus means?
Find the difference.
Minus minus means add, right? So you're adding 8 and 9. So that should give you
17.
17. So remember, the minus minus is telling us to add, right?
Yes.
Let's check. It's 17. All right? Next. Good. So this one represents 2 different signs. And with the 2 different signs, you're supposed to subtract, right? So the answer will take the sign of the number which appears greater. So when you're subtracting, what you're getting? So it's 10 take away 8, right? Which is?
Negative 2.
Great. Let's check. It's minus 2. Great. Check this. Similar concept up again, right?
Yes. Negative 16.
You added, but you're using the wrong sign.
Plus.
Positive 16. All right. One more. What's happening?
Your subtract.
Good. And so?
Positive 5.
Great. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, she got that correct. 16 plus minus 5. Two different signs, so the rule. Mm-hmm.
Positive 11.
Wonderful. Let's check. Wonderful. Hi. Good. So you see how many times this is coming up, right? So let's get it right this trip. First time.
Positive 21.
Let me hear clearly. Speak up a bit.
Positive 21.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Positive 21. Okay. So let's see if we can beat the time here.
Negative 2.
Which number appears greater?
12.
What is the sign?
Subtraction.
Where's the sign for the 12?
Positive.
So your answer is supposed to be?
Positive 2.
All right, so you're getting it. You're getting it. Great. Next. Mm-hmm.
13 subtract.
Looks different, right?
Yeah.
Same concept. So it's like if you're saying 13 minus, or 13 plus minus 14, right? So you're adding two different signs here. So the concept still holds. It's just that the plus sign is invisible there. All right? So you can do 14 minus 13 because the plus sign is missing. So that's 1.
That'll be negative 1.
Right. Cool. All right. I'm not sure how much time we have left, but 12 plus minus 15.
12 minus plus 8.
Take your time. 12 plus minus 15.
Negative 3.
Great. She's getting it, guys. She's getting it. All right. Uh-huh.
Oh. Negative 3 again.
It looks harder?
No, not really.
Okay. So what is it saying?
You have to add both of them.
Oh, wonderful. So you found it, what you're right, exactly. So when you add, what are you getting?
You're gonna get 27.
And what kind of 27? Come on. What kind of 27? Yes. Yes. All right. Wonderful. You're, well, we have an ugly number here. So, great. Last of the set. Yeah. I'm seeing one more question here.
Positive 960.
Yes. Wonderful. So, thank you, Azaria. Alicia, so you weren't here on Tuesday, but you were able to add and subtract integers. So just remember, so when you're adding two integers and they have the same signs, for example, positive with positive, your answer will always be?
Positive.
Right. And when you have negative, you're adding two sets of negatives, your answer will always be?
Negative.
Great. When you're adding two different signs, what happens there?
The number that's it starts with A
Appears.
appears more. You that takes the value of the number.
The answer.
Of the answer.
Right, the answer get that thing, but after you've subtracted, though, right? So you have to subtract. Good. And then what else we found out? So when you're subtracting, it depends on what you're dealing with, right? So in some cases, if you have more, you have to borrow, right? So if you have minus, minus coming like that, as in this case here, so if you have minus, minus coming like that, you're supposed to be adding, right? And then sometimes that will take you into the other concept where you have two different signs. So sometimes you have more than one concept playing out within the particular question, all right? So thank you for being a good sport today. And I know that you've learned addition and subtraction in just a short time frame, all right? And so I'm happy that you've managed to answer almost all of the questions correctly. So we will continue with our concepts as we looked at other areas of algebra. So thank you for being with us, and see you next time.